I'm with Nick Mullins after watching Harlequins defeat Exeter 29-15 and being with him on the BT Sport commentary gantry. What would your advice be for somebody listening to this who one day wants to be a commentator or has aspirations in the regard to do the job that you do?
I think to do what you're doing, Michael, which is just get as much experience as you can, going to games, talking to people who are doing the job, enjoying it, thinking about the way that you would do it. But, build early, offer to work at local radio stations and see how much experience you can get ahead of applying for full-time jobs.
On that note, what would you say are the biggest misconceptions about the life of a commentator? Because there's sort of an idea that it's this really glamorous existence.
Well, my dad doesn't know what I do during the week. He just thinks I work on Friday, Saturday and Sundays. He has no idea that actually the job is a lot of travelling. This week had 2 commentaries. Went to Exeter on Tuesday, went to Bath on Wednesday, Leicester Thursday, came to see Harlequins on Friday. So that's an awful lot of travelling before you do the commentaries on the Friday night and Saturday. So the misconception is that every commentator just turns up at the match half an hour before kick-off and talks nonsense, but actually a lot of prep goes into the amount of nonsense that I talk during the game.
Without meaning to give too much away, just give us a bit of an insight as to what you're doing when you're doing that midweek prep work and what you're doing in terms of talking to people, talking to coaches, attending training.
I'm just picking up what I can. I found that you can spend 2 days on Google but not learn as much as 10 minutes talking directly with the players and the coaches. And particularly on a weekend like Anglo-Welsh Cup weekends where you're dealing with lots of young players that you might not necessarily have seen before. It's all about identification as well. So rather than seeing somebody like a young Joe Simmons Exeter fly half for the first time as he runs out to start the game, you need to have watched him train at Sandy Park earlier in the week and spoken to him as well if you get the opportunity. So it's all that kind of back work that goes on.
What would you say are the key elements to a good commentary, certainly TV style, in terms of what you do?
I think the key to a good TV commentary is not to say too much. I find that every word I say, every extra word I say is more likely to annoy somebody somewhere watching back on their sofa. So choose your words carefully. Before you start a sentence, know how you're going to finish it. And just remember that the person watching at home or in the bar on the telly can see what you're seeing. So if you're talking, make sure that you're only adding to the pictures.
Most opportunities that will come up for youngsters starting out tend to be in radio.
Sure.
How would you say that differs, and what would you say are the key points to hit?
Well, you have to keep it simple, and you have to remember that what you can see is not what the person at home can see. The person at home can see nothing. So the most basic thing is to keep telling us what the score is. You can't tell us what the score is often enough, even on radio. Describe what you can see. Which direction are the teams playing in? What colour kits are they wearing? Is it cold? What can you smell? What can you see? All those kinds of things, all those kinds of sensory things. Nothing is too much. But first and foremost, keep telling us what the score is. Let us know who's on the ball, and when they're on the ball, whereabouts on the pitch they are, because geography is so important as well.
How do you balance that love of sport that you've obviously had growing up, that say an aspiring young commentator would have, with that professional side of being able to do the job, and not losing one or the other and retaining that sort of mental process as such?
I'm not sure there's a conflict. I
wasn't necessarily saying there was, but
No.
it's that kind of two.
I think you have to, part of being a commentator is that you do love the sport, and I hope when people listen to me talking about rugby or tennis, they get a sense that, I'm not an expert first and foremost. I'm just somebody who is enthused by sport and what it can bring and the excitement. And if I'm helping to convey that from a ground that you're not necessarily at that day, then I'm doing my job. But you have to love the sport, and you have to enjoy what the players are trying to do, and remain positive. I think that's one of the key things to a good commentary. It's too easy to criticise players and to complain about what you're seeing, but actually, look on the bright side. You're doing a great job. You're getting in for free to watch fantastic sport, and the players who you're watching are at the top of their game. So, let's celebrate that.